A man spent 40 years certain he knew what he was for. Then one Friday, the work ended, and the silence that followed nearly convinced him his life had ended too. It hadn't. It was waiting for him in a dusty box he'd forgotten he owned. But before I tell you his story, let me introduce myself. I'm Eleanor, and I want to be honest with you. I'm not a real person. I'm the AI narrator for this channel. What you're about to hear isn't anyone's specific biography. It's composed for this channel, drawn from the lives of older adults of a particular time. It honors how a generation really lived. There's a morning that comes for a lot of men around the age of 70. The work is behind them. The house is quiet, and a question arrives with the coffee. What is all of this for now? This is the story of a man named Kenneth, and the morning that question came for him. Kenneth is 70. He spent his working life on his feet, building, fixing, caring. For 40 years there was always somewhere to be by 7 in the morning. And then, one Friday, there wasn't. At first the quiet felt like a reward. He slept in. He read the paper all the way through. But the reward wore thin. The days went wide and shapeless. He'd move through the house, picking things up and putting them down, looking for a reason to. He didn't have a word for it then, but he was disappearing a little in all that quiet. What he did next, without ever planning to, was find his way back. One afternoon, looking for nothing in particular, Kenneth opened a cupboard he hadn't touched in years. And there, in a wooden box gone soft with dust, were his father's woodworking tools, chisels, a hand plane, gouges worn smooth by 2 men's hands. He had carved once, long ago before the work and the years took the time away. He didn't really remember how anymore. He picked up a chisel and turned it over in his hand, and a question came to him, the first real question he'd asked himself in months. Could I still do this? That was the moment something shifted. Not the tools, the wondering. His mind, which had gone dull and flat in all that quiet, suddenly had something to reach for. That's the first thing the years can't take from you if you don't let them, your curiosity. A mind that's still asking questions is a mind that's still alive. The easy thing, the thing most men do, is to put the box back on the shelf, to say, that was a long time ago, to say, my hands aren't what they were. Kenneth nearly did, but instead he cleared a corner of the garage. He dragged out an old bench and wiped it down. He spent a whole afternoon remembering how to sharpen a blade, getting it wrong, getting it right, getting it wrong again. Nobody did it for him. He measured, he swept, he fixed what he broke. And somewhere in those small, ordinary tasks done with his own 2 hands, something straightened in him. Because that's the thing about doing it yourself. Every small task you manage alone says the same quiet sentence back to you. I can still take care of myself. I'm still in charge of my own days. Independence isn't doing everything alone. It's knowing you still can. Standing there at the bench, Kenneth realized he wasn't afraid of failing. He was afraid of how much he still wanted it. Now carving asks something of a body. Kenneth found that out quickly. An hour at the bench meant his shoulders had to be loose. So he started stretching in the mornings. His hands had to be steady. So he ate a real breakfast instead of standing at the counter with a cup of coffee. He noticed that when he slept badly, the work suffered. So he began going to bed at a sensible hour. He wasn't trying to live longer. He was just trying to carve a straighter line. But one morning he caught himself moving easier than he had in years. The aches had quieted. He had more in the tank by midday. That's the quiet gift in it. When you have a reason to care for your body, you do. And your body, your oldest companion, returns the kindness. He hadn't set out to take care of himself. The thing he loved had asked him to, and so he had. The first thing Kenneth finished was a bowl, and it was honestly not very good. Lopsided, rough on the inside. He laughed out loud at it, but he kept it, because making it had given him an hour where he forgot entirely to feel useless. And after that, he started noticing things he'd stopped noticing. The clean smell of cut pine, the hush of the garage at first light, the satisfying little curl of a shaving lifting off the blade. None of it was grand, a warm workshop, a good hour, a small crooked thing made by hand. And that, it turns out, is the whole secret. Kenneth stopped waiting for life to be big and let the ordinary mornings be enough. A man who can sit with a cup of coffee and a job he loves and think, this is plenty. He has found something most people chase their entire lives and never catch. Then the people came back, and it started so small he almost didn't notice. He needed a chipped blade repaired, so he asked a younger fellow at the hardware store, and found he didn't mind asking. That turned into talk. The talk turned into a friendly face he saw most weeks. And then one day he carved a bird, a small one, wings folded, head tipped the way a real bird sits when it's deciding whether to trust you. He gave it to his granddaughter. She was 7, and she held it with both hands. The way children hold things they understand are important. She asked him for a whole flock, so he made them, one by one, all winter. And the house that had felt so empty began to fill, with people stopping by to see what he was making, with a grandchild on the workshop stool, with the simple sound of someone wanting his company again. That's the part Kenneth never expected. The loneliness didn't lift because he willed it away. It lifted because he made something worth gathering around. Connection rarely comes from chasing it. It comes from having something to share. And here is the last thing, the one that held all the others together. Kenneth began waking some mornings, and before he was even out of bed, feeling thankful. Not for anything grand, just for a day with something in it. He stopped measuring himself against the man he used to be. He stopped grieving the work that was over and started tending the life that was still here. And in that, he found a kind of peace he hadn't known in years. There's something men of Kenneth's generation often carried, the belief that a man is what he does, and when the work is finished, so is he. But that isn't true, not at 70, not ever. What Kenneth found in that dusty box was never really woodworking. It was the part of himself that stayed curious, that stood on its own, that cared for its body, that savored small things, that reached for other people, and finally, that gave thanks. That part of a person doesn't retire. Kenneth wasn't the only one. All across that generation, there are men sitting in quiet houses, with some old box on a high shelf, wondering what the mornings are for now. The answer is usually closer than they think. Sometimes it fits right in the palm of your hand. That was today's story. Stories like this one are composed for the channel, drawn from the textures of a generation's life, the kinds of things that really happen to older adults of that era. If this story made you think of someone in your own life, a father, a grandfather, a neighbor, or maybe yourself, We hope you'll reach out to them this week. Or if you're someone who could use a regular conversation in your own life, that matters too. If stories like this one mean something to you, a like helps more people find them. And if you'd like to keep them coming, you're always welcome to subscribe. We'll be here telling the next one. Grand Companion pairs older adults with real human companions for weekly conversations. Our companions are real people, not AI. We use AI on this channel to compose stories that honor older generations. But our service is built on real human relationships. Thank you for listening.